The Prince Has a Big Snake, The Rise and Fall of a Queen. In a vast kingdom nestled between mountains and rivers, where lush forests meet the horizon, there lived a queen whose beauty and intelligence were legendary. But beneath her perfect image, a scandalous secret brewed, one that could destroy everything she had built. This is the story of a prince who came and saw the beauty and splendors of Queen Nyakara. Although she was married, he was a lusty man with a big appetite for romance. He wanted this queen for himself. Knowing the powers of his big snake, he used all his charm to get her. Queen Nyakara was born in a small village, the daughter of a humble healer, but even as a child, she had an aura of power that others could not ignore. Her sharp mind and unyielding determination set her apart from the other children. By the time she turned 18, she had outwitted and outmaneuvered many of the kingdom's most skilled advisors. She was among the brightest and the best, and had gained the attention of the king. One evening, the king, a man known for his wisdom and leadership, called her to his palace. He saw potential in Nyakara and offered her a position as his closest advisor. Within a year, she had gained the king's trust and the loyalty of the people, becoming not just an advisor, but the true power behind the throne. The king proposed marriage and Nyakara accepted. The people adored her. The kingdom flourished under her guidance more so than all the neighboring kingdoms. Because of the beautiful river that bordered the kingdom and the vast amounts of arable land and a willingness that the people had to work, they were able to produce many goods and send them to market on merchant ships. Thus, the kingdom flourished and prospered, including all the people. But as she rose higher, so did the whispers. How did she do it? Her answer: my father was a healer, so am I, but I am a different kind of healer. I seek peace and prosperity among people, and I believe we should follow the ancient laws to heal our land. People of a healed land are healed and healthy people. In order for the queen to keep herself in that role, she had to maintain all decorum and decency. By now, Queen Nyakara had everything she wanted: power, respect, and wealth. But there was one thing she lacked: love. Yes, she was queen because she had married the king of Nabiani, but he was married to the kingdom and always had been. Nyakara was a co-worker to him, someone to help him get things done and make him look good in meetings and at events. The king, though a great leader, was older, and their marriage had become more political than passionate. The king was not a fighter, but he wasn't a lover either. At least not anymore. One day, during a royal feast, Nyakara met Tumo, a young and charming prince from a neighboring kingdom. Their eyes locked, and an unspoken bond formed between them. Not only was Prince Tumo everything her husband was not, he was also everything that she had been fantasizing about. He looked youthful, masculine, fiery, and passionate. She noticed him several times from across the room. Everything about him had an air of mystery. Once, when he was walking past her, he seemed to have so much junk in the front that she couldn't tell if he was coming or going, and that intrigued her even more. Prince Tumo came to Nabiani under the guise of wanting to learn from them how their kingdom was prospering, so that he could share that information back home and help his kingdom and his people. That was a lie. Actually, that was 3 lies. But Queen Nyakara was not paying attention as she should have been. Suddenly, there is a specimen who is really her spec, and she has felt for years that she hasn't had any fun. Here's Tumo. The prince had a reputation, and the whispers were that he had a snake. Queen Nyakara had not heard any of those rumors, but was enthralled and seduced by his charm and good looks. Tumo's lie made it possible for him to come to Nabiani once a month, and for the queen to travel to his kingdom to help them out, also once a month. So they began to see each other twice per month. First, the meetings were one day, but then they decided that with all the travel involved, they should make the meetings last 2 days, and then 3. So eventually, they saw one another 6 days a month, every month. Prince Tumo and Queen Nyakara both worked very well toward the same goal of convincing the queen that she was in love with this young stud, heartthrob, and that he was in love with her. when she went to his kingdom, there were no meetings at all, and she was okay with that. She met no one while she was there. She was not entertained at the palace, but instead, a house near the palace, where Prince Tumo lived. It did not take long for their stolen moments filled with passion and desire. Prince Tumo wanted her to fall in love with him. Actually, that was his goal. By the time the first night arrived, she had begun to hear the snake stories about him and found it amusing. That night she found out what the snake rumors were all about. Tumo was very well endowed and quite energetic. She was so enthralled with him that she didn't notice that in bed, his legs seemed to disappear. No, she had to be imagining that. She chuckled to herself, but she was hooked. This man had charm and everything she wanted in a lover. Everything and a lot of it. They would have their fill of one another for 3 days straight when in his kingdom. When he came to Nabiani, it was a bit different. The prince did not board at the palace with the king and queen, but was put in a guest house, and meetings were taken in the palace. The king paid some attention, but not much, as he was handling affairs of state, while his wife was simply handling an affair. But love is a dangerous thing in a world where power is everything. The kingdom began to notice that Queen Nyakara had become first distracted, and then distant. She was so distracted that she didn't notice that Tumo's kingdom wasn't poor, and didn't look poor at all. As a matter of fact, it was opulent, so she concluded that he pretended that it was poor to get to her, and with that explanation she flattered herself. But these days she was different. The once unshakable confidence she displayed was now clouded with guilt and anxiety. She was different these days, not as sharp, not as happy, not as friendly. She had no wisdom, really, to share with anyone. She became rather dull, really. Was she falling for him? She hoped she wasn't pregnant. Whispers of what is wrong with the queen began to spread. Queen Nyakara didn't notice that anything was different about her. She was too distracted and enthralled with the young prince, and let's face it, he was really servicing her with his snake, and that is what she focused on. Well, maybe she's a little bit more tired than usual, but she chalked that up to being a little bit more bored than usual. Because with a firebrand like Prince Tumo, how was she supposed to focus on real life, if thoughts, fantasies, and dreams of him were always occupying her mind? Still, since she was an authority on growing the kingdom, word of her working with the kingdom next door began to travel, and other kingdoms wanted to send delegations to take classes from Queen Nyakara as well. She turned them down. She knew it would take time away from Prince Tumo, and those other people couldn't sit in on her classes because she wasn't teaching any classes. Tumo was holding class, with his big snake, that Nyakara felt was getting bigger each time she saw him. The queen was the student. As the affair continued, Nyakara's advisor, Kofi, a man she had known since childhood who never should have been trusted to be an advisor, kept his eyes on her. He had always feigned loyalty to her, but he really was an opportunist. When he overheard a conversation between Nyakara and Tumo, he realized the truth. Wait, he thought to himself, she's the daughter of a herbalist, and she's married, and she's the queen. Why is she seeing this young stud on the side? And he has a snake. Seems everyone knew that Prince Tumo had a snake except Queen Nyakara. Kofi saw an opportunity to use the queen's secret to his advantage. Kofi wanted to be the king's advisor, not just the advisor to a woman, even though she was a queen now. He sent a carefully crafted letter to the king, revealing the affair. The king was furious, his trust shattered, and he confronted Nyakara with the truth. Her perfect world came crashing down. But that was not the worst of it. Kofi, seeing that the king's wrath could destroy Nyakara, decided to manipulate the situation further. He forged a letter, claiming that Nyakara had been plotting to overthrow the king, and presented it to the Council of Elders. The council, already wary of Nyakara's power, demanded that she be removed from the throne. The king, first angry, but then heartbroken and torn, had no choice but to obey. Nyakara was exiled from the palace, her name now tainted with scandal and betrayal. All this because she was fascinated with Tumo's snake. Looks like she had a snake too. Her untrustworthy advisor, Kofi. After being forced out of the palace for years, Nyakara wandered through the villages, her heart heavy with regret. She had once been the most powerful woman in the kingdom, and now she was nothing but a shadow of her former self. She couldn't seem to pull herself together again. The prince didn't want to see her, and after the scandal, how could he even if he wanted to? There'd be nothing but scandal, and more scandal. Kofi was an old man, and had died, but Nyakara hadn't held a grudge against him anyway. She supposed the truth had to come out some way or other. She never knew, though, that he was the one telling the elders that she wanted to take over the kingdom. The prince, in secret rooms in a wing of the palace where no one knew about, stands talking to his snake. If only Queen Nyakara could see how Prince Tumo's kingdom had grown, even though it was already rich. Suddenly, both his mother and father had died, and now he was King Tumo, a king with no queen and no prospects of a queen. All the women he was interested in were dying, everyone except Nyakara. So now he is King Tumo with a snake. No wife, but a snake that he does things to. The snake begins to speak and says, "The sacrifices were accepted this time. Next time, I will ask for more." Shocked, King Tumo says, "Next time? What next time? You never used to ask for blood like that. Plus, you're getting too big." There was no pause, as the snake was sharp-tongued. "Things change. And you like getting big, don't you? You like wealth, don't you? Well, I like sacrifices. But, those were my parents." Dryly the snake responds, "And? You told me once I drained the queen of her virtues that everything would be settled, and we'd be done. We are never done. TUMO dash. Never, never. You'd better find another queen to drain. We've made a lot of money off of her brain power and her talents and virtues. If you don't soon find another, you'll be next." Tumo looks in shock, astonishment, and extreme fear, then hangs his head in defeat. After Queen Nyakara was removed from the throne and the palace, suddenly the prosperity of the kingdom began to change. Crops wouldn't grow. People couldn't find jobs. The craftsmen of the village couldn't sell their wares where they used to be so popular. Even the river dried up half the year, and trade stopped from the kingdom of Nabiani, and people became poor and disheartened. The villagers, remembering her as the great queen who had brought prosperity to their land, were divided. Some blamed her for her betrayal, while others believed she had been unjustly cast aside. Others believed that God was punishing her and them for her infidelity. They assumed the same devastation was happening to Tumo, although they didn't know that he was prospering beyond his wildest dreams and living his best life over in his kingdom. Silver and gold and goods and money was flowing in from every source, but the people were unhappy, even miserable. They felt oppressed with a feeling of doom, but they had money. They were conflicted, and it was a weird feeling for them, and they didn't know why. It's like the rich people who are unhappy or bored, but they don't understand it. Since they have all material goods and everything they need financially, they are just not happy or fulfilled. One day, as Nyakara sat by the edge of a river, reflecting on her fall from grace, an old woman approached her. This woman was known for her wisdom and had helped heal many who came seeking solace. She asked Nyakara why she looked so broken. "I lost everything," Nyakara replied, her voice filled with sorrow. "I was betrayed, and I betrayed those who trusted me. I was consumed with lust, and in the end, it destroyed me." The old woman smiled softly. "You are not the first to be tempted the pleasures of the flesh, nor will you be the last. But while you were in your temptation, you were attacked." Nyakara's head snapped around as she asked, "Attacked? How so?" "Yes, attacked, my queen. You were attacked spiritually by a man who came to drain your virtues." "Me? Was it Kofi?" "Yes, you, but it was not Kofi." "But who?" "Tumo." "Tumo?" "Yes, you know he has a snake." Why people keep talking about that man's private parts is confusing to Nyakara. "You even know about his she stutters. "Down there?" The woman laughs. "I'm not talking about his private parts. I am talking about his snake. He has a real snake. They say it is a very big snake. Nyakara shyly asks, "What do you mean?" "My queen, isn't your father a herbalist?" She pauses for a moment, then continues, "Don't you know about the ritual snake? Didn't your father teach you about spiritual things?" "Number, I didn't know anything of what my father did." "Oh, I see. Well, your soul was thirsty, and then captured by that charming young man. His purpose was to drain you of every good gift, talent, skill, and ability that the good Lord gave you. While you were distracted getting yourself entangled with him every other weekend or so, he was draining you and feeding your gifts to the snake. The snake, in turn, used your natural gifts to prosper Tumo and his own kingdom while draining yours." The former queen asks, "Why did he pick me?" "You are a very gifted woman. The Dark Kingdom has been eyeing you and your gifts ever since the day you were born." "I know, because I used to be on the dark side. Now I'm not. How was he draining my virtues? How was the snake getting my gifts and blessings?" The woman glares at Nyakara. "How do you think? The same thing he was doing to you, he was then doing to the snake." Nyakara exclaims, "What? Why?" The wise woman continues, "Then the snake would vomit up gold. Right there on the spot. The more he did you, the more gold he would vomit and spit out." Nyakara puts her head into her hands and moans, "Oh, I was such a fool." Then she frantically asks, "What can I do? How can I fix this?" "Well, you've stopped the behavior some years ago. That's a start. Next, you have to repent and never do it again. Pray for your virtues, skills, gifts, natural talents, abilities, and blessings back. You've got to get them back from Tumo and the snake, and whomever is enjoying your blessings." "I'll do it. And..." Nyakara is almost afraid to ask, "What about the snake?" "It must die," the wise woman proclaims. "How?" "When you pray and repent and renounce your behavior, it will strike fear and death on the snake automatically." Nyakara listened carefully, and for the first time in years, she felt a flicker of hope. She began praying and repenting of every sin she knew of and could think of. She began to look pretty again. The snake had drained her beauty, and some days she felt like her life force was draining as well. Day by day, and also through many nights, she prayed and prayed. King Tumo noticed his large coiling snake was wrinkling and drying up and getting weaker and weaker, and he didn't know why. It stopped talking. It didn't speak anymore. It didn't vomit out any more gold either. Well, it was not as if King Tumo needed any more gold anyway. He was conflicted because he knew the snake would ask for another sacrifice soon, and he didn't have anyone that he could sacrifice, except some of the commoners in his kingdom. But which one? Which one would the snake approve of? As the snake got weaker, Tumo became more hopeful that maybe that snake would die. He regretted having made the deal with the snake in the first place. Maybe it would die, Tumo hoped or prayed. One day Tumo entered the secret room where the snake lived, and it was not moving. It seemed in deep sleep, or completely lifeless. Tumo wanted to rejoice, but he didn't know if the snake was faking or not. He wanted to touch it, but he didn't. How would he know if a cold snake was dead or not? It was always cold. He couldn't resist. He had to know. Tumo reached out his hand and touched the reptile, and at that exact moment, lightning shot from the ceiling and the wall from the snake to Tumo. King Tumo dropped dead, and the snake disintegrated as if it had never been there. Nyakara became young and beautiful again, as if she was 10 years younger than she had looked for the past few years. With a new courage, she returned to the palace, not to reclaim her throne, but to face those she had wronged. She asked the king for forgiveness, acknowledging her mistakes and vowing to work for the betterment of the people and never be distracted by anyone, not even a handsome face or a nice package ever again. To her surprise, the king, though still hurt, saw the sincerity in her eyes. He forgave her. He took her to see the council of elders who were having to hear about the poverty and disappointments of all the people of the kingdom. Not only that, The people wanted her back because they were suffering so much and had lack, whereas they had known prosperity with her as queen. The Council of Elders forgave her as well, because before he died, Kofi had confessed that he made up the treason story against Nyakara. The elders and the king all agreed to reinstate her right to the throne. The king had not divorced her, so he reversed her exile from the palace and they reunited. Together, they worked to rebuild their relationship and kingdom. The king began to pay more attention to his wife and appreciate her in every way. Given a second chance this time, Nyakara used her wisdom not for personal gain, but to guide others, sharing the lessons she had learned through her fall from grace. The kingdom flourished once again, but this time the people saw a different queen, a queen who understood the fragility of power, the importance of loyalty, and the value of humility. Queen Nyakara had learned the hard way that power, when abused, can destroy everything. But power, when used with compassion and integrity, can heal even the deepest wounds. And so, Nyakara's story became a legend, a tale told to remind all who seek power that it is not enough to rise to the top. True greatness lies in how we handle our fall and how we rise again, stronger and wiser. Nyakara invited the wise woman she met by the river to become her personal advisor now that Kofi was gone. In today's society, the story of Queen Nyakara teaches us a powerful lesson. Power is fleeting, and those who seek it without responsibility risk losing everything. How it may be lost is devised in the evil minds of evil people. Even those who look like angels of light, those who are in power, must be wise and discerning, because every pretty or handsome face that comes along is not always honest and can have hidden motives. Those who follow leaders, any leaders, must be sure of their leader's source of strength and power by knowing who or what they worship. If not, instead of those leaders helping you, they could be looking in your direction to take from you or hurt you. They won't say that. They will turn on the smiles and the charm to get what they want from you. A true leader needs to also be spiritually wise and not let him or herself be led away into flights of fancy, pleasure, or the lusts of this world, because what they do will affect everyone that they are leading. If this story resonated with you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more tales of power, betrayal, and redemption. Stay tuned for the next episode, where we explore another scandalous tale of the African kingdoms.